We're live. It's the Fish Life Podcast. Conduct your hosting duties there, Christopher.
Welcome back. The bait's mine now.
Worst start ever. But I got a little jingle. Y'all hear a little jingle? Little cling cling? Got a little cling cling going.
I get that styrofoam.
He got the styrofoam cling cling.
I like that old school chopped and screwed.
What are you doing with my crankbait?
No, I'm handing it back.
You better watch out. That's a dangerous weapon. Them hooks on
Hey,
there.
I tell you what.
On them 6-inch crankbaits, them hooks ain't playing around.
The other day, like yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday counts for the other day.
Yeah.
I was throwing a.
I mean, it was another day than today. It wasn't today. It was a different day than today.
That's right.
Technically, you're not wrong. Before we get started, hey, when you guys get in here, drop us a comment. Let us know you're here. If you don't mind, hit some thumbs up for us, man. Ask some questions. I see Trey Hunt just popped in here. We got a few others starting to show up. But if you guys have any questions tonight, drop them in the comments, man. Let's get some interactivity going on. All right, tell me about the other day, which was yesterday, which technically counts as another day.
It was another day.
It wasn't an other day.
And the other day.
Are we getting like grammatically correct around here?
Modern
We've hardly ever been accused of that, folks at home.
Modern problems
All right, tell me-
require modern solutions.
Tell me about another day.
I was throwing a 6-inch jerkbait yesterday.
Okay, hold on. Before we do, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. We're about to get demonetized.
Let's go. Punching in the face will be demonetized.
No, I was throwing a jerkbait from 6 inches, and them hooks are sticky as heck.
Yeah, they
Like,
are.
Bad.
Especially those little ones like that,
I
right?
ripped off half my nail, one of them.
Did it get your fingernail?
Good thing.
That's shit. Lean forward.
I'm not flipping y'all off.
but yeah, for YouTube monetization purposes, he's missing a chunk of his fingernail from a 6-inch hook. Yeah, they're not playing around. We got a good podcast tonight, or at least, I always say that because I always give you guys my best efforts.
We think it's good.
We think it's great. We don't know why there's not more of you guys listening. We're grateful for the ones that are, though.
Give
Don't
me
get
a
us
blue
wrong.
ribbon.
Yeah, can I get a trophy? Can I get an 8th place trophy? An 870, probably like an 800,000th place trophy for podcasts? Like, if we were ranked in world podcasts, how low would we be? Would it be around 800,000? I think that's about where we'd be.
I want to be like the dude that blows like $10,000 at the casino, but still gets a buffet voucher.
Right. I don't know where you're going with that, but that sounds like a lot of fun. Like, I'm in. If you've got $10,000, I will tag along tonight, Jack. Let's go. So anyway, if we were ranked in podcasts, I think we'd be around the 800,000th ranked podcast in the world.
We'd be just behind Joe Rogan.
The good deal, we would definitely be behind Joe Rogan.
Just
We
behind
would definitely be behind.
By like 10.
100,000. 100,000.
We just made up.
What is that, a million? Is
No,
that a
we're just
million?
making up words now. Making up figures.
So anyways, now that we've rambled through all that, tonight on the podcast, we're going to talk about current fishing conditions, which are very, very interesting for this time of year. So we'll talk about that in depth, of course. We will also cover a little bit of tournament activity that's going on. We're going to talk to Chris about his tournament activity from yesterday. We've got some scheduling, some of our stuff that we create, our content that we create. Some of the schedules are changing a little bit. We're settling into what will be our 2020/2021 schedule now that I'm done with my little vacation. So we're going to fill you guys in on that. We've got a new content channel for you guys to go watch. We're going to share that with you as well. What else we covered? Oh yeah, the world's click. We're going to dive in depth at the end of tonight's podcast on how the entire world is clickbait. Yeah, he tried to click me there. The entire world is clickbait, and we're going to talk about that at length. It's going to be an interesting. If you like some of our rants, our political discussions and rants that we do at times, you'll really enjoy this. It'll be good at the end of tonight's podcast. And am I missing anything, Chris, on the schedule tonight?
No. Well, we do have one other a secret question that I'm going to ask you.
Chris is going to ask me a question I'm not prepared for. He's not telling me what it is, so we can do that as well. All right, so hopefully this will be a better podcast than we usually make, because we like to think they're really good, but usually they kind of suck a little bit. So let's start with the schedule. So just got to, it's like we went to church. We got to do announcements before we get to the sermon.
Right.
So
Let me go get a plate.
yeah, here we go. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, the donuts and coffee are still available throughout announcements. Please wrap that up by the time the pastor gets up here.
Do not complain about the coffee. Helga will be pissed.
That's right. That's right. So, do you say pissed in a church? I don't think you do. I don't.
You can.
That might be the church I need. I don't know. Anyway, so schedule is going to be as such. We're going to start doing the podcast live stream. Obviously, on Sunday nights around 6 or 7 p.m., we're going to do podcast live streams like you guys are watching right now going forward. So they were on Tuesday. So what's going to happen on Tuesday is we are going to introduce a new playlist. It's going to be Throwback Tuesday. Throwback Thursday is the thing. We're going to create Throwback Tuesday. Last week the fishing just really sucked. So I showed you guys a throwback video, and it got great response. Got a lot of good comments, got pretty good amount of views. You guys seem to enjoy that video. So going forward on Tuesday, I'm going to pick one of my favorite videos that we've ever filmed. We filmed a lot of videos over the last few years here. So we're going to start doing a Throwback Tuesday series and look back at some of my more favorite episodes. And hopefully you guys will enjoy them as well. So Throwback Tuesdays on Tuesdays. Mondays will still be current on the water videos. Wednesdays will still be in-depth instructionals. Thursdays will still be top 5 bass live streams to prepare you guys for the weekends. Saturdays now, I know I did it this morning. I did at noon today. I put the seminar video. But from now on, Saturday evening or Sunday morning, one or the other, will be when our seminar videos upload. So that'll be our schedule for this next year. So, man, that's a lot. We got a Saturday video. So we had something coming out every day except Friday. 6 pieces of content a week. We're either talking fishing, showing fishing, bringing you on the water, giving you instruction, something about fishing and East Texas life, and just living our best version of whatever we call this adventure we're on. Is going to be coming at you 6 days a week. We're getting after it.
We always get after it.
We ain't playing no games. No, we ain't playing no games.
No, I quit school because of recess. So I don't play no games.
He said, you're going to have to speak up because the phone's way over here. He said that he quit school because of recess because he don't play no games, folks at home. That's a pretty good line right there. I like that one. All right. Let's go, Chris. Are you going to participate in the podcast?
Yes.
Or are you just going to kind of...
I'm trying to...
It would be nice if you'd join in. You know, I didn't bring you here for your good looks because you're ugly as hell.
Are you going to take a breath? Get you some tea.
You can't leave dead air time in a podcast. What are you doing?
What y'all want to talk about tonight?
We already told them what we're talking about.
No, I know.
This is
I'm
probably the worst version of you I've ever seen on this podcast.
So did he just say, hold on, time out, scroll back, go back. Thomas Smith, stop that.
He said, "Hook 'em." Well, we got our response right here, Thomas. There it is, right there. There's our response.
Biden takes
See that song off in the background? Chris, tell them about the bowl prediction.
Oh, there was a bowl prediction today that I read, and they I can't remember who it was. I think it was Mr. Schleybox said that he predicts Texas A&M and the University of Texas will be in the Cotton Bowl this year.
That would be epic, dude. That would be so epic.
I wish it would have been last year. Because I don't like my chances this year against Texas, but we'll see.
Let's see. I always like my chances of my fighting Texas Aggies against the Longhorns. I'm just saying. Like, we had no business beating Colt McCoy, but we did it twice.
Yeah, facts.
Like, A&M was way worse than the University of Texas.
Even in the Johnny football era, we shouldn't have beat Alabama, but we did.
But we did.
And we beat LSU in arguably the coolest game ever.
Big John said it's one of 2 podcasts that he watches. And then somebody else said, we're the #1 group of fishermen that's willing to share info. Where was that at? That was a good comment. You're the #1 group of fishermen that are willing to share the knowledge with all fishermen. Keep it up. Thank you very much, Trey Hunt. We appreciate that. That is an awesome comment. Comment of the night so far. Cody Mays wants a trophy for the 22 kill tournament. That was a charity tournament, dog. He wants a trophy.
Come on, Cody.
Cody, you and your 8th place trophy kids that you got over there that y'all are raising. I don't know about all this, man. Anyways, let's go, man. What are we talking about?
All right. So, current conditions.
Current conditions. Well, let's blend in your day yesterday. Tell me about your day yesterday, because I want to hear your story about yesterday, because I know yesterday was tough on you.
It was tough.
It was tough. It wasn't tough on you individually. It was tough on y'all's entire group that fished this tournament, right?
So we fished. The lake we were fishing is an 18-inch minimum.
Okay.
So
it's a little bit of a smaller lake too, right?
Smaller lake.
Yeah.
As far as excuse me,
coronavirus.
Yeah, no kidding, right? So as far as some of the lakes I've fished, here in East Texas, our lakes are abundantly stocked with bait, but none quite like this one.
Very fertile.
None quite like this one, in my experience. And there was bait about that big.
Little what we call thumbnail shad, flicker shad, yeah.
Everywhere. And I mean everywhere. And they were running in packs about the size of the Skeeter.
Just big balls running up down the bank, kind of random places.
Make a cast, they flare, and it was tough. And we knew it was going to be tough.
And what did it take to? It was didn't take much to win, right? What did it take to win?
14 pounds. And
14 pounds.
3 fish was the most anybody caught all day in a bag.
18-inch minimum, so 14 pounds, a really small bag. this lake that he fished, it does have some big fish in it. So, yeah, only 3 fish got caught. Nobody caught a limit. It was a 5 fish limit tournament, but nobody caught a limit. So, what you just described is what's going on, guys, and that's turnover and like right after turn. That's like right at the tail end of turnover, starting that transition. When those bait balls, that wad of bait gets up on the bank, and you kind of start seeing, even out on the main lake banks, not even in the creeks yet, just everything shallow on the bank and kind of scattered out. Like that's what happens in the turnover, and right after it, until they kind of start migrating a little bit. It's what I call the summer to fall transition. That's what's going on. That's what's going on in Lake Fork. We talked about it quite a bit this past week on live streams and videos and all that. The same thing's happening to all our lakes around here at the same time. Everything cooled down so fast, there's no disparity between small lake to big lake. It went from summer to, man, we got a lot of rain, and the water cooled off real quick with that tropicals, that hurricane, which wasn't a hurricane when it got up here, but you know, that tropical system. Then after that, we got a whole bunch of rain this week. Like, I didn't even get to film this last week. Like, I don't know what we're going to show tomorrow, because I was supposed to film. I'd pushed everything back, canceled everything, and I was supposed to finally get to film on Friday because the weather was going to break loose. And then it rained most of the day on Friday here. Well, guys, I can't break the cameras out when it's raining, so I didn't even get to film last week. I don't know what I'm going to show you guys tomorrow on Monday's video. We'll come up with something tonight and get something going, but we've got a cold front coming. That's going to make some of these fish that are in that transition go ahead and push into the fall migration, I guess you might say. But yeah, no, what you're facing, it becomes difficult. And what happens is so much bait and so much life gets up on the bank and just scatters out all over the lake on the bank that it becomes very hard to isolate more than one fish at a time.
That's right.
It becomes very hard to find a fish at times because there's so few, they're just spread out so much. So you have to fish fast while fishing thorough. One of the most challenging things to do it. You're not going to get very many bites. So if you do get a bite and you miss it, man, it hurts real bad in a tournament situation. It's just, you know, there's a reason why everybody says that turnover is the hardest time of year to fish. There's definitely a reason. What I can tell you is, though, some of my best days, some of my best, like, big fish, big fish, big fish, big fish in a row type days have happened in this situation. Because somewhere amidst all that confusion and spread outness, there's a group of bigger fish, and they're looking for the same thing. They're looking for the best oxygen situation. They're looking for the cleanest water. And they usually find that dirt shallow where they can't hide from you. They can't get away from your bait. You can annoy them with your bait till they bite when you find them. And if you do find that, you can sit there and bust them. It's just extremely hard to find because it's so few and far between and everything's so spread out.
Yeah.
But if you do find it, you can have magical days during the turnover. Everybody always talks about how tough the turnover is, and it is.
Oh, it's tough.
But man, I've also had some of my very best days, and you know the best thing I know to do is just only fish when you're seeing that massive amount of bait, and like only fish the areas where you can visibly see that massive amount of bait, and then match the size of that bait to what you're fishing. So if you're around those little shad, throw your little quarter-ounce lipless crankbaits, throw your smallest swim baits with an underspin, throw little bitty spinner baits. Throw the smallest profile shad looking like bait you can when you get around that little shad. You get around a little bit bigger shad, hey, throw a chatterbait. Throw a 4.5, 5-inch swim bait. You find some gizzard shad, break your big baits out. You know what I mean? Like, just match the size profile and have something that's silver or white or something that looks like a shad. Crankbaits are great, square bills and all that stuff, you know. Just try to match the size of the bait fish and locate the massive amounts of bait fish is kind of the best advice I can give you in general. For current conditions. Now that's what's going on right now. Now I'm saying that by the time we get this cold front, by the time we talk about this next Sunday, man, it could be like, hey, we're in the back of the creek, or hey, we're back offshore throwing a flutter spoon, or you know, it could be a lot of different things over this next week when this little cold front comes through. The cold front is now they're backing off the prediction on how strong it's going to be. So we'll talk about that later because that's part of our clickbait discussion. That is part of our clickbait discussion later. But the cold fronts, they're backing off how cold it's going to get, so I don't know how much more the water is going to cool off. Like at first they were saying it might be like a high in the 70s. I even saw one prediction of a high in the 60s on one day, lows in the lower 50s, and I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. Now it's just lows in the 60s and highs in the lower 80s. You know, so we'll see how this cold front shakes out. You know, it's always hard to predict what's going to happen in fishing, and it's really hard this time of year because they're in a transition mode where everything's changing so much in the water column this time of year that it can kind of go either way, or it can just stay like it is. And then you kind of stay in this spread out transition kind of funky phase.
I didn't like it at all. I mean, we catch. No, it was weird. We catch like 2 or 3 fish within 5 minutes,
And then you would catch nothing for hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, golly.
Yeah, no, I mean that is
It's-
transition. That's summer to fall. That's normal. You have to, like I said, you got to cover a lot of water.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, when you find something, you better be real thorough and get everybody out of that you can, because you're not going to find a lot.
We
You're just not
were,
gonna
we
find
were
a lot.
covering a lot of water in one area because that's where we were seeing most of the activity.
That's not covering a lot of water.
No, we covered a lot of water. Trust me.
If you cover a lot of water in one area, I don't think those two things go together.
You ever heard of recovering the water you covered?
That's not covering a lot of water.
I still covered it.
That's fishing extra thorough.
I covered it 5 times. I covered it.
He
Don't listen.
covered it 5 times. Covered the same water.
I didn't want
5
salmon. I
times.
said 4 times.
I didn't want salmon. His wedding, his horse crap.
Oh gosh.
Somebody said there's no cold fronts here in Florida. It's a scorcher. Well, y'all get up on that. He said Aggie logic. That's actually pretty good.
That is funny.
I'm not even mad at you. That's pretty good. Somebody said there's no cold fronts in Florida. It's scorching down there. Man, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm sorry for you, cause
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to a little bit. But you know what's gonna happen? This little cold front's gonna come through here. We're gonna feel like we're gonna wake up one morning. It's gonna be 60 something. We're gonna be like, ooh, this is nice, and it's gonna go back to being 100 next week. That's probably what's gonna happen. So.
Yep. That's typically. Texas is the only place you can.
Just up and down,
all
up and
4
down.
seasons in a week.
Cody says they went out fishing Friday morning, and he swears they were the only idiots out fishing in the storm. It rained like all morning. It was supposed to be done at like 8 o'clock. Like the forecast said it'd be done at 8 o'clock. I'm like, oh, I'll just go out at 8 and film the rest of the day, you know? Man, it rained till like noon. And then I had something to do with my kids at 4, so I didn't have time to get to the lake and go film and all that. But yeah, this weather's been a mess, dude. I've never seen the water temps this cool this time of year. I've never seen this much rain. Like,
we had 82 all day
it's crazy.
yesterday.
Water temp?
82
Yeah.
all day.
You're supposed to keep this thing flowing. You're not
No,
doing your job very
We're
well.
still talking about it. Schedule.
Oh,
MLFLW.
what did you say? There's a Bassmaster. Did you say what tournaments are going?
There's an open on Rayburn
There's a
next weekend.
Bassmaster Open on Sam Rayburn next weekend. There's going to be some big ones caught. Because I'm going to tell you, the deal about, like I said about the turnover, it's not going to be just easy fishing for those guys. But those guys in that Bassmaster Open series are real good. And there's some really big fish that are going to be pulled up shallow right now.
It's liable to be-
Accessible.
It's liable to be a fireworks show.
I don't know if it's going to be like big bags, but I bet you somebody catches a freaking giant.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we got the Sealy Outdoors tournament coming up a couple weeks in Fort.
Mhm.
Same deal, man. With these early cool downs, this might be one of the better Sealy Outdoors events that we've had in a while, right?
Is
Maybe.
Is it always in September?
It's always like the third weekend of September, something like that. It's this might be one of our. I say it might be, and it might make it tough because it did spread them out. But what it does when you put that number of boats like they have, like the Sealy Outdoors, sometimes has over 3,000 entries. Always has over 2,000 usually, which is just insane on a 27,000 acre lake. Right now it's about a 23,000 acre lake. It's about a foot low, but that's when you put fish shallow and put good fish up shallow, and then you put that number of boats on the lake, you just at some point somebody's catching a giant.
Oh, yeah.
And so this Sealy Outdoors tournament is coming up. It's going to be a little bit different. Normally in that tournament, man, I'm telling you, I fished that tournament a lot before I got it. It was like offshore structure. You know, early we'd start on some deeper docks or something like that, steep sloping banks, something like that, first thing in the morning because the tournament starts at 6 a.m. before daylight. And you start out maybe a little shallow or around dock, not shallow, but like mid-depth around docks or something. And then you'd go out off the bank and you'd fish like true offshore structure fishing the third weekend of September because the water was always still real hot. This year it's going to be totally different. I mean, there's going to be a lot of these guys that enter this tournament. There's going to be a lot of those, well, gee golly, this is my first time to fish Lake Fork. Now I was just go down the bank and I caught this 9-pounder. Like, you put that many people on the lake, they're going to run into that on a pond like Fork.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's about to go down. Like, somebody might go up there and catch an 11, 12-pounder on the bank on a spinnerbait because there's just random fish scattered up on the bank right now. So that should be interesting. Unless the weather really changes here over the next, 12 days, 11 days that we have left of the tournament, we could have some really giant fish.
Or
get caught.
if they call for an inch rain, we get 8.
Yeah, that could change things too. Absolutely, that can always change things. But so that tournament, that Bassmaster Open now, Let's talk about some of the names that are fishing. Who all is fishing at Bassmaster Open? You got guys like Scott Martin, right?
Yeah.
What is that? Brian Latimer.
Brian Latimer's another one.
These are some of the FLW crossovers. I know. Who else is on there, Chris? You're supposed to have all this knowledge. What are you doing?
All the open rosters?
Yeah, you don't know
have
those?
the open rosters. No.
You don't have the open rosters?
James Negemeyer will be fishing it, I'm sure.
He's fishing FLW. He's not fishing. I don't know if he fishes the open still or not. I know he's been fishing FLW.
Yeah.
We're not doing a very good job of being tournament fishing fan hosts.
Well, I didn't know we were going to talk about the field. Sorry.
You monkey, you're falling apart at the seams, Chris. I'm blaming it on Chris. It's really my fault, but I'm blaming it on Chris because that's what you do in society these days. You never blame yourself for anything, right?
It's against the rules.
Yeah, you're not supposed to blame yourself for anything. That's not allowed.
All right, hold on. Open. Answer some questions while I'm looking at Sam. Big Sam.
Thomas Smith says, do a live stream from the boat. Bro, we live in East Texas. Like,
You'd get to see that thing 5 hours late.
not even that. You'd get to see 5 seconds and then the signal would be gone. I tried to go live like 2 or 3 years ago. I had this great idea, right? I was all excited about it. Maybe further back than that. When I was kind of first doing some content, when YouTube first came out with live, right? Where you could go live on your phone like this. I had this brilliant idea. I was like, it's bed fishing season. We're going to get on a big one that I know is going to bite. And I got a customer that I know I can trust in the boat. That I know can flip and all that on their own. And I'm going to live stream a giant fish off a bed. Well, I did, and nobody saw it. They saw me go, hey guys, we're at Lake Fork, got a bed fish right. That's it. That's all they saw.
That's all I got.
So yeah, live streaming from the boat on the water around here is just not a realistic possibility, brother.
Central Opens.
Okay, these are some open rosters. So we got Lee Livesey, Lake Fork's own Lee Livesey. That's great. Brandon Polinick is fishing. Justin Margraves, another Lake Fork guy. Let's see who else. Brad Watley. That's another Elite Series guy that's from East Texas. Greg Hackney. James Biggs, a DFW legend. Greg Vance, good angler. Jacob Porosnik. Brian New. Justin Atkins. James Negemeyer. Clark Ream, another Texas guy. Jason Christie, the good one. Not Christie with a Y, i.e. Christie, like the one that can fish. We got to do a podcast on Jason Christie with a Y one day. For who, y'all drop the comments. How many of you guys know about Jason Christie with a Y? Because this guy is he's an interesting character, you might say. It's a weird deal with him. It's a pretty good story. Cody Bird, holy crap, Daryl Gleason, Toledo Ben Hammer. By the way, if you guys ever want a guy on Toledo Ben, Daryl Gleason is great. Gerald Swindle, of course. Golly, Scott Martin. Just crazy names in these Bassmaster Opens. This field's unbelievable. Brian Latimer. I'm probably scanning so fast I'm probably missing some. Cody Bertrand. No, that's Josh Bertrand I was thinking of. Never mind. Sorry, Cody Bertrand. You might be great. I don't know you. Andrew Upshaw. Great. Todd Castledine, Texas legend. Holy cow, there's so many on here.
Castleton's kind of good on Rayburn, too.
It's on, Castledine gets an open on Rayburn? Holy cow. So for those that don't know, Todd Castledine is probably the most accomplished angler on Lake Sam Rayburn of all time. I don't know how many Texas Team Trail events him and Russell Cecil won. I don't know.
Lots.
Yeah, it was a lot. Castledine's won everything on Rayburn.
Yep.
Everything.
He's got an extensive YouTube channel of a bunch of content from Rayburn.
Yes, he does have a YouTube. Yeah, Todd Castledine has a great YouTube channel with content from Rayburn. That is very true. All right. So, bunch of big names. Obviously, guys, that was a lot of big names. I'm sure that I missed some because I scanned through. It's a big roster. I don't know how many it is, but it's a lot. How many? Go down to the bottom. How many is it? Does it number it? How many anglers is it?
186.
186. Tons of names, so I scanned through it real fast. I probably missed some great names on there, but that's going to be a fun event, man. You guys, they live stream those opens as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys can watch the live stream from the opens, and I would highly recommend. I mean, you got a lake like Sam Rayburn, you got hammers like that. That would be an awesome event to watch. What lure color do you guys use in dark colored, coffee looking river waters? What spinnerbaits, cranks, and bottom bouncing lures? Lure color and dark water. I mean, the book says to use, like if you're throwing a crankbait, chartreuse black back. That would probably be my number one muddy water crank, like square bill and stuff like that, would be chartreuse with a black back. Spinner baits. I'm going to tell you one thing about moving baits that I like in dark water is I like to throw white.
I do too,
Like
because it ain't
solid,
blood.
bright white, pearl white. It shows up. And if you're fishing muddy, dark colored water, a lot of times, like if you're fishing that water and the bass are coming out light colored, throw white. Because, like in the wintertime, we throw white a lot. Because if those bass are turning pale, those shad are turning pale. If they can find that real shad, they can find your bait too. So white shows up really good in dirty water. But if it's like dark tea colored, kind of tannic water, that's not the white deal. Like, and is it dirty or is it just dark? Because you can have dark tannic water and it be pretty clear.
Right.
Like Lake Caddo is pretty notorious for having pockets of really clear water, but it's dark, it's tannic. That's my favorite watercolor because you can throw all kinds of natural colors and the fish can still see the bait because the water's clear, but they can't see it as good. And you can usually catch them real good in that clear, tannic, dark water.
The white muddy water,
Yeah.
that's a go-to for me, especially
Oh
shallow.
yeah, man. Yeah, like a white chatterbait or a white hard thumping, like big Colorado bladed spinnerbait or something in that dark water. Dark tannic, it looks like tea. Yeah, so that's actually my favorite. Like if that has some clarity to it, that's my favorite watercolor. You can kind of get away with throwing anything. Like you can throw baits that look like this. I mean, just look natural. Just natural shad-looking baits. If they're eating shad, they'll eat it. If they're eating brim, they'll eat it. They'll eat, green pumpkin stuff if they're eating brim. Yeah, the colors don't. If you've got some clarity in that tannic water, it's awesome. It's really, really, really good. Really good. What's the best thing to throw right now in color? Do I have a little one up here? I think I put it up. So basically, my best bait right now has been a bait like this, but a little one, the 3.3 inch Divine swim bait, and I'm rigging it on a 3/0 owner flashy swimmer. That's been my best bait.
What is that, lavender shad? Is that what that's called?
No, that's Pro Shad.
Pro shad.
Pro Shad, I believe is what it's called. Pro Shad.
Pro shad.
What else we got on our list tonight to cover?
So,
The FLW schedule.
yeah.
MLF.
Mhm.
Yeah, all right. So this is going to be the FLW series schedule for next year.
For 2021, we'll go Central Division, Northern Division, Plains Division, Southern Division. We'll go through all the divisions.
Now this is going to be an interesting tour next year. This
Yes.
FLW tour is supposedly they're going to be getting some qualifiers to go to the Bass Pro Tour, the MLF Bass Pro Tour. Some of these guys, and we don't know all the rules yet, but they're going to qualify into that bigger trail.
So we'll start with the Central Division in February. February 16th through 18th, Gunnersville. March 31st through April 2nd, Dale Hollow.
Dale Hollow, and I know most of you guys are going to know this, but for some of you guys that don't know, Dale Hollow is like world record smallmouth fishery.
That's right.
Like they got giant smallmouth in Dale Hollow.
May 20th through 22nd, Chick, and then that'll round out the Central Division.
So Central goes to Gunnersville, Dale Hollow, and Chickamauga.
I think they.
Can I sign up for that?
Yeah,
Like,
they
is that an open registration trail?
Yeah, they.
Like, I would pay a lot of money just to go fish those 3 lakes. That's awesome. That's like bucket list lake trail.
And they did it. They did it in months where they would shine.
February for Gunnersville, late March, early April for Dale Hollow, and late May for Chick. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that is
They scheduled it right.
like literally. I've never seen a Bassmaster Open schedule or any, that level tour trail schedule. I've never seen one that I would want to fish more than that.
That's
Like that is a trip that I would want to take on like a vacation. Like,
Yeah.
I'd want to go hit those lakes at that time on vacation one year. That would be awesome. Those would be like bucket list lakes, all of them.
From what I've seen, all these divisions, they timed them pretty well to fit the lake they're fishing.
They
So,
tried to
yeah.
get after it and get the shootouts going. So,
let's
Northern?
go to the Northern Division, July 15th through 17th, Champlain,
Mhm.
out of Plattsburgh. August 26th through 28th, St. Lawrence River. And September 16th through 18th, the Potomac.
3, for Northern Division, 3 really legendary fisheries. Good time. Yeah, they nailed that one too. That's awesome.
Plains Division, March 4th through 6th, Lake of the Ozarks. April 8th through 10th, Grand Lake. May 6th through 8th,
Yeah.
Dardanelle.
Yeah.
Come on.
Dude, these are awesome schedules.
Oh, Southern Division's where it gets good.
Southern Division. Here we go.
Well, I like Florida fishing, so February 4th through 6th, Toho. March 16th through 18th, Harris Chain. And then May 6th through 8th, Seminole.
So they're just all Florida lakes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Georgia.
Well, you got Bainbridge
Seminoles
in
in
there.
Georgia, yeah.
Then Southwestern, January 28th through 30th, Sam Rayburn. March 25th through 27th, Texoma. April 28th through 30th, Rayburn.
What? See, no, no,
I don't know.
okay. Listen, nailed it so far. Maybe I wouldn't have put two. I would have maybe gone over to Alabama or something else for that one. And I would have put, multiple Florida lakes on there because you got so many good lakes around there. But anyway, it's still a good schedule. This one I'm going, like Rayburn might be the best bass fishing lake. Chick and Rayburn are probably the two best bass fishing lakes on planet Earth over the last couple of years.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll go with
hard to
that.
argue.
But why, when you're in the Southwestern Division, everything's in the state of Texas. With all the fisheries that we got in the state of Texas, why are we going to Sam Rayburn twice? And Toledo Bend is like,
Right.
you can hit a golf ball to it from the, you know what I mean? You hit a golf ball from dam to dam on Rayburn and Toledo. Why are we going to Rayburn twice? And why are we going? Listen, I like Texoma. Texoma's a good pond.
Yeah.
Like I've seen a lot of good bags come out of Texoma, but bro.
I think it was just to mix in the smallmouth aspect, maybe.
But bro,
Yeah, I don't know.
like you know how many lakes are better than Texoma in the state of Texas?
Yeah. You want me to name them? I live on one, first of
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, Palestine, Lake of the Pines.
Lake of the Pines, Caddo.
Why does nobody ever go to Lake of the Pines on these trails? Lake of the Pines is one of the best dang tournament fishing lakes on planet Earth, and none of these big trails, very rarely do they go there.
Speaking of Pines, that's where our classic is this year. That's where my championship is. 2-day on Pines.
Hey, y'all don't know about Lake of the Pines. It's awesome, man. I'm just gonna tell you.
So check out the Western
And it's
Division.
above full right now.
Yeah. Check out the Western Division. This is good. Lake Shasta,
Lake
the
Shasta,
Delta,
the
and then
Delta.
Clear Lake. You think they're going to
The
be on
Delta
swim
and
lanes?
Clear Lake is awesome, dude. I love the Delta and Clear Lake. I could do without the Shasta, but I get it. I get it. Again, that's what goes back to my Florida argument. Like they put everything right there on top of each other. But in the Rayburn deal twice, I love everything on that schedule except for the Rayburn deal twice. Really gets me. The Texoma deal I can live with. Like if you give me Rayburn, Texoma, Toledo, I'm like, yeah, that's an awesome schedule. Why are we going to Rayburn twice? And is Todd Castle not eligible to fish this trail?
Yeah, you're kidding,
Because if Todd Castle not signs up for that division,
He might win it.
you guys are in trouble. I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
So I do like, I like how they structure the payouts too. So the qualifying events, $40,000 plus a Phoenix bonus for the ones that are eligible,
Yeah.
and then championship $200,000.
Nice, dude. They're paying some money.
Yeah. So
Holy cow. That's awesome.
and the entry fees, angler of the year is $5,000 at each division, co-angler $2,000. Entry fees are.
It's not going to say that
It
on
did.
there. You got to go to the entry form somewhere. Anyway, all right, let's see what the
$1,700.
$1,700 per event, and you get a $200,000 payout at the championship and $35,000 payout. That's kind of like the same old, same old. It's not really that
And
much different.
$550 entry for co-angler. So
What should I use for a lake I haven't fished in 3 years in clear water? Lake has clear water, he hasn't fished it in 3 years. Natural stuff. It's hard to say without knowing more about the lake than what you didn't give me any information about the lake. But in clear water, I'm looking at natural baits, I'm looking at swim baits, and I'm looking at finesse tactics. That's probably my top two. For a moving bait, my first choice is going to be a swim bait in clear water without knowing anything else. My first choice for a moving bait is going to be a swim bait, and then finesse tactics when you're in clear water. Wacky worms, drop shots, shaky heads, right? Like I'm going finesse in clear water.
do yourselves a favor and look up online, look up the forage in each lake that you fish and the color, like the colors of the crawfish. That helped me a lot. Like per season.
Yeah. Looking up, like, that's actually a really good tip. So, yeah, listen, guys, there's a lot of, we have a world worth of information available to us these days in our pockets at all times, right? And so you can actually look up, crayfish, and don't look up crawfish, look up crayfish
That's right.
in a given area. So if you're fishing a lake in Missouri, look up Missouri crayfish, and then go to images. When you Google Missouri crayfish, You go to images at the top of the screen there, click images, there'll be images of crawfish from that area. And you can see kind of what color the crayfish tend to be in that area. You can do it for Texas, you can do it for any state, any region, wherever you're at.
I did it a long time ago, and it helped me a lot.
It can help a lot, yeah, because when fish can see better, matching the hatch better is always going to be a little more important. Yeah. Good point, Chris. I'm glad to see you brought something to the table besides your elbows tonight, son.
Something but my elbows.
Somebody says Lake of the Ponds, man, that'd be big enough for 200 boats for 3 days. Yeah, but most of these trails aren't normally 200 boats. I mean, that Bassmaster Open is, but like,
what's the
FLW tournament wasn't that big until they added the other guys into
Correct.
it, right? It wasn't near that big. The Elite Series is 80 guys. Yeah, I mean, they fish lakes that size on some of those trails. So, I mean, maybe that's why. I know with like the Elite Series and the Bass Pro Tour, they come to Fork because it's Fork and it's legendary, and they weigh them in the boat and all that, you know, when they come to Fork. And they go to some of these fisheries because they're legendary, like Rayburn. But there's a lot of these lakes they go to, even on trails like Bass Champs will have their championship trip, because these cities will pay them money to go to these lakes. These areas will pay them because it generates so much revenue for the city when those guys come to town and the fans come to town and all that stuff. So some of these cities are paying these trails to come to these lakes. And I don't think there's, you know, like New Diana probably ain't going to pay Bassmaster a whole lot of money. Like Ore City probably ain't writing FLW a check. You know what I'm saying?
Can I get something off my chest?
Yeah.
I'm glad I never have to see another tournament on Beaver Lake ever again.
Why is that?
Because I cannot stand Beaver Lake.
Why aren't you going to see another tournament on Beaver Lake?
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, with the format that they're bringing forth now,
Yeah.
it's probably not going to happen.
I don't know.
It might.
You know the deal with yeah, it'll be less often. I'm gonna tell you the deal with Beaver Lake showing up so much. You know the deal, right?
Oh, I know.
So the FLW tournament was there every year, sometimes multiple times a year. And the reason why is because the FLW tour, the trail, was always so tightly affiliated with Ranger.
That's right.
And Ranger's world headquarters is right there at Beaver Lake. So, I mean, that was why we saw so much Beaver. Now, you know, what's funny is back in the day, Beaver Lake was kind of considered like hammerhole.
Okay, I know.
But as fishing evolved and fishing techniques got better, we got better as fishermen, and the fisheries in the South got better at growing bigger fish, stocking Florida strain across the South region. Yeah, Beaver Lake just got passed by. It just got passed by. The funny thing is, your favorite technique is probably flipping.
Oh, that was the lake.
It might be. The flipping technique was literally originated and invented at Beaver Lake.
I know.
So it's funny that you don't want to see a tournament.
Well, no, I just did. You know, you're culling 2.2s with 2.4s. Like that's what kind of. You know, you catch a 3-pounder of beaver, that's big fish.
So, Chris, I'm going to test your knowledge here. Somebody's asking a Palestine question.
Okay.
Why is Palestine tough, and what makes the water green? So the first part I'm going to take. Okay, why is Palestine tough? Every lake's tough right now. Palestine's not a tough lake. Palestine is a great lake to catch fish on. If you struggle throughout the year on Palestine, you just don't have Palestine figured out yet. It's not a knock on you. It's not a knock on the lake. You just don't have Palestine dialed in yet. It's just not your lake yet. You know what I mean? Like, there's some lakes that fit our eye better, that suit our styles better, and maybe, you know, Palestine is just something you're going to have to work a little harder to figure out. Because Palestine is not like a tough lake. It's a great lake, and it has big fish in it. It's got a lot of good numbers of solid, decent-sized fish in it. Right now, every lake's kind of tough because we've just been going through turnover. So everything's challenging. Green color to the water, you got anything on that? Have you noticed it being, I mean, a lot of our lakes around here, like Lake Fork will have a little bit of a green hue to it at times. Man, that's just the microorganisms that live in the water. It's not an algae bloom, but there's, you know, different types of plankton in the water, different types of algae in the water that give some of our lakes around here a little bit of that clearish, greenish tint to it. Lake Fork gets a little bit of that green hue to it too, especially down on the main lake down south and stuff.
I'll tell you another thing about Palestine. The way I fish it is I fish areas of it certain times of the year, and I don't move around a lot on Palestine. That's just what works for me.
And it can, especially if you don't know it that well, it can be challenging because that sucker can be dangerous to run around on now.
Any more questions?
No, well, maybe, but we've caught up. What is
You ready for this?
What are we doing?
Oh, I'm fixing to ask you a question.
You're gonna ask me? Oh, this is the surprise
This
question.
is a surprise question.
Yeah, I'm always ready.
All right.
If you're waiting on me, you back it up, old son.
If you were not a professional fishing guide, what would you want to do?
What would like for a living?
Yeah.
Coach. I want to be a coach.
Football, I assume.
Probably football. That's the sport I have the most knowledge on. But I'd coach anything, you know. So me as a kid, I loved fishing and I always fished a lot. But maybe the only thing that I love more than bass, and when I say I love fishing, I love bass fishing. I could do other kinds of fishing. I liked it. It was fine. I didn't mind crappie fishing. I didn't mind catfishing, but I love bass fishing.
Right.
It was I would always rather be bass fishing. I grew up real spoiled in the outdoors. I got to deer hunt in deep South Texas, right on the Mexico border. Yeah, down there in like the best Texas hunting land there is. I got to duck hunt in South Louisiana for the first time I ever duck hunted. I duck hunted in South Louisiana. I got to fish. Conroe was my home lake, but I got to fish Rayburn. I got to fish Toledo. I got to fish Falcon. I got to fish all these lakes when I was a kid. Had some great ponds that I had access to. I had a lot of I was just really fortunate as a kid to get to do all that in the outdoors. And bass fishing was always the only thing I wanted to do. However, in sports, it wasn't like that. I probably liked football the most. I don't know that I liked football the most. I was better at football than any other sport as a player, for sure. But I love baseball. I love basketball. Like I play basketball every time I had a chance. Man, I'll tell you what, I've been coaching my kids in soccer. I enjoy the heck out of soccer now. So I would definitely, if I wasn't a bass fisherman for a living and I could pick what I wanted to do, I would be a coach. And I wouldn't want to do it at a professional level, to be honest with you. You know, I'm just not a guy that is out to make $1 million, you know. Don't get me wrong, I would love for my family to be financially set for generational wealth or something like that. It'd be great to have that security and comfort. But I'm not a guy that needs a lot of money. I'm not a guy that is willing to give up other things to get that money. You know, there's things that I would rather have than the money, if that makes sense. And I don't even know that I'd want to coach on a college level. Because to me, my favorite part about team sports was obviously, you know, the competition, getting out competing, testing yourself. That was great. But the best part about team sports was kind of the life lessons. Like the thing, when I look back on team sports, it was a relationship with the people that I played with, and then how it molded me as a young man. And especially as I get older and I meet more people, meet more young people, maybe meet a single mom or whatever, single dad, like there's a lot of kids in our world these days that come up from split households, that come up from whatever. I grew up in one. That need, you know, they can find value in that extra structure that team sports can offer, right? And the way that all those team sports work, you know, the big deal about team sports is, you know, learning how to be part of something that's more important than you. Be a part of something bigger. Sacrifice stuff that you would personally rather have for yourself to do for others. Man, that's biblical. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what, at the end of the day, you read the Bible, it calls on you to give to others. It basically says, serve God, serve others, love God, love others, kind of in that order, you know, like, and team sports does a great job of teaching that. And I coach my kids in U10 soccer right now, and I love it, man. Absolutely love coaching those kids. I'm hard on them. I get after them. I hold them to standards. But that's because, you know, life's not easy. You know, life will kick you in the face as many times as it can, and you've got to learn to deal with that and keep getting up. And if you don't hold yourself to a high standard every day and get out there and kind of get after it and compete every day, man, you're not going to have success no matter whatever you do. But if you do, no matter what happens, you keep competing and doing for others, you're going to succeed no matter what you do. Look, if you are always giving to others, and we're going to go on a little bit of a sermon, a little bit of a Bible sermon here, but if you're always giving to others, tell me what you won't succeed at. Tell me what you want. No matter what your job is, every time your boss needs something, you're there to do it. Work a weekend day, work overtime, don't pay me overtime, I'll do it anyway. You're always giving of yourself to your boss, right? Like you're doing everything for that company. Everything for that man that is your boss. Tell me you're not going to be running the show after a while. You're not gonna fail if you're always doing for others. Hey, and I probably shouldn't be preaching on this right now, but I'll go ahead and do it anyway. I can preach to myself just like I can preach to anybody else. If you're in a marriage and you're doing everything for your spouse, and this goes both ways. In a marriage, if you're doing everything for your spouse, doesn't matter what you want, but you're doing what they want, how does that marriage ever fall apart? If both people are doing that, it never falls apart. So that's what I loved about team sports. It teaches you to get, and that's why I would want to stay like on the high school level. So I'd want to be a coach on the high school level and really get to be involved in young people's lives and, hopefully give them a good structure, a good influence, a good foundation building block to create a better life for themselves, man. Because I love team sports and I love the avenue of that and I love what it teaches. I've always, man, when I was a kid, dude, if you gave me a ball, I was good. Like, it didn't matter what it was.
Right.
You give me a baseball, football, soccer ball, basketball, I'd do it all, man. It didn't matter. I just loved it. There's pictures of me when I was, there's 2 pictures of me that stand out when I was a baby, maybe 3. One is my father carrying me in a bassinet to a fishing pond across a creek. Crossing a laid out log in a creek. No, but there's a picture of my dad fishing a pond with me sitting beside him in a bassinet, right? So I was introduced to bass fishing before I can remember. And the other picture is my mom's got a picture of me at my 1-year-old birthday. I was maybe not even a year old, but it's just a little toddler picture of me, and I'm holding a baseball with both hands for dear life. And that's the 2 things in my life that have always been like my biggest passions: bass fishing and team sports.
Yep, sports.
Right. The third one, whole different direction, but we can go both ways. Hey, listen, I'm not a great Christian. I admit it. I'm terrible at being a Christian.
We're versatile.
But the third one is one of my uncles was holding me in his lap, gave me an empty beer can, and I'm doing this. So that may have had an influence at some point too. I don't know.
Never.
So yeah, that was a long answer to that, but yeah, I definitely want to be a ball coach. So let's go. Let's talk about something else. What are we doing? The whole world's clickbait, Chris. So we were talking earlier before the podcast. Chris came over here. We were sitting around just kind of shooting the breeze a little bit, kind of planning this deal out. We do. As bad as this podcast is, like as bad as we do,
we freeze up sometimes.
we do try to plan it out, right? Like
We attempt.
we've got all the best intentions, put all the work in. The execution is just lacking at times.
Yeah. It's because we keep getting sidetracked by clickbait.
By clickbait. The entire world has become clickbait. Not only has the entire world become clickbait, I would make the argument that the entire world has always been clickbait. We just are exposed to more of the world now.
Yeah, I mean, everything that you could possibly want to access.
It's in your pocket at all times.
Right here.
And you have access to more people. Like, you have immediate direct lines of access, and you see more of more people than you ever have in your life. Like, when I was a kid growing up, mom and dad might have a friend that they haven't seen in 15 years, and then maybe they call them once a week, or you haven't seen them in a year. Maybe you call them once a week, once a month. Maybe you don't, right? Now, like, I know what all them guys I played ball with are doing.
Oh, yeah.
All the time. If I want to.
Yeah, all you got to do is open up an app.
Just scroll, man. Just scroll. That's it. So we have more access to more information. And I don't think that social media has changed us. I've heard that, people say social media is bad, it's evil, it changed that. I don't think social media has changed anything. I think it's exposed us. But literally the entire world has become so much clickbait. It's insane. We could sit here and go on and on about the fake news and news being misleading and all that. Here's one glaring example to me lately that I've seen that just drives me insane.
Really grinds his gears.
Even weather has become clickbait these days, folks. In the last 2 weeks, 10 days, we had a hurricane. If you watch the coverage leading up to that hurricane hitting land, and that hurricane was bad. It was bad. Like, right? Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. I understand, yes, we needed to evacuate the coast, all that was true. If you watch the prediction models leading up to that hurricane, and I love Mark Skirdo. Mark Skirdo does, I think, a really good job as a weatherman. It's about as good as any weatherman I've ever seen out here in Tyler, Texas. Even Mark Skirdo was looking at these models, and these models were showing that this hurricane was still going to be a Category 2, sometimes Category 3 storm by the time it got even with Tyler. Well, folks, I grew up in Conroe, Texas, around Conroe, Texas. That's 30 minutes north of Houston, because I lived on the south end, right? I lived down there around Oak Ridge, south of Conroe a little bit. 30 minutes from North Houston, right? Which is next door to Galveston. Mm-hmm. We never worried about hurricanes in Conroe because they weren't hurricanes by the time they hit us. You know what I'm saying? Like they weren't even a hurricane anymore by the time they got to Conroe. It'd be really windy, it'd rain real bad, and there'd be some lightning. Like that was it. It was just a normal bad summer storm. It wasn't anything to evacuate over. It wasn't anything to get petrified about. Nothing. They were trying to say this was going to be a Category 2, maybe a Category 3 storm by the time it got up to Tyler. It didn't even rain. Like we had some wind.
Then it rained a couple days later.
We had some 20-mile-an-hour sustained winds is what we got from this hurricane. And they literally closed schools in Longview. Like some of these schools around here, daycare stuff, closed. Because of the forecast. And the whole reason they're doing that is because all week leading up to that hurricane, 2 weeks leading up to that hurricane, you'll click on their post and watch it more. And when you click more and you give them more of your eyeball time, they get more money because they sell more ads. That is all, this whole world is clickbait now. That's all they do. They try to sensationalize everything, exaggerate everything, make it worse than it's going to be so that you'll click on it. So this is a public service announcement. Don't believe anything anymore. Think for yourself. Like, figure it out. You have to figure everything out on your own now. You can't believe anything about what they say about politics. You can't believe anything about what they're reporting about these protests. These protests literally are happening because they're sensationalizing events with police. Police come to a young girl's house. A guy that has raped this young woman is being abusive and aggressive towards her, stole her car keys and won't give them back. The cops show up. This guy struggles with them, has a physical confrontation, gets away from them, disobeys orders, is not cooperating, reaches into his car. They know he's holding at least a knife. He has a history with these cops in this town. And then he gets shot, and somehow it's the cops' fault. Excuse me? And then everybody wants to make a big deal. Well, how come the white kid didn't get shot? You want to know why the white kid didn't get shot? Because he walked to the cops calmly with his hands in the air. He didn't walk away from them. He didn't struggle with them. He walked to them calmly with his hands in the air. You can literally have just shot someone, have a gun strapped around your chest, and if you walk towards the cops calm with your hands in the air, you're not getting killed. I don't care what color you are. It doesn't matter. If you listen to their instructions and you stay calm, you won't get killed. I promise you. I promise you.
Everything's been twisted, and it always, in the last, I've really started noticing it in the last.
The deal is we just see more of how twisted it is now.
Right.
And now clickbait has become monetized, right?
That's right.
Like everything. And listen, we do it a little bit on the YouTube channel. I'll say things, I'll put things in titles to try to get people to click on them. I mean, I had a snake try to climb my boat. I called it a near-death experience because I felt like I almost had a heart attack. Because I'm deathly scared of snakes. No, it wasn't a near-death experience, but it was a funny title, and it got people to click on it. It's our most viewed YouTube video ever because it says near-death experience. It has nothing to do with fishing. So, I mean, clickbait has become monetized, so now all these outlets that we supposedly are supposed to listen to and believe are just lying. Everybody's lying. And I would make the argument that we've kind of always done this, right? Like, hey, how many times have you been at home and mom and dad's real mad at each other and the phone rings or the door gets knocked on and all of a sudden, hey, how y'all doing? Like they could be like mother trucking and cussing and throwing stuff and boy, all of a sudden, boom, hey, how y'all doing? Or they're fighting, then you go out somewhere and they put on this happy face like they love each other. All these couples that take all these happy pictures together probably hate each other every night. Like, it's always been this way, but now we're exposed to more of it, and now it's monetized, so people are incentivized to do it even more. Like, the entire world has become clickbait, folks at home.
It's a tragedy.
You got anything to add to that, or did I just... I'm kind of just going off tonight. Chris.
Oh, I heard about that.
Chris, what do you want to be when you grow up? That's what I want to know.
You want to know what I want to be? Is it Cody Mays?
Yeah, when you grow up. Because you ain't grown at 30.
Excuse me. 31.
31. You're not grown at 31.
I'd like to, if I could have my way, I'd like to have a camera crew follow me around and basically have like a live TV show about my life. Because it's comical.
You just want to be like the Kardashians and just be famous for being you.
Yeah.
You're going to have to get some butt implants if we're going to do this.
No. I think...
it's more like white trash drama.
I think it'd be good.
I mean, I've heard some stories. I'd watch.
That's what I'm saying.
I'd watch.
Yeah, like it'll be called a day in the life of Chris because everybody hates Chris is already taken apparently.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So the one to me, like the one that I've heard about, like goofy TV shows like that, like real TV shows.
Yeah.
The one that has the most realistic chance of happening, because you've seen like the crab fishing shows and the swamp people and the cutting the logs down, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And these shows have all done great because they've got these crazy characters that are after each other a little bit, you know? I've heard it said a bunch of times that they should do a reality show on Lake Fork between the fishing guides. That legitimately would be a good show.
Oh, it'd be like the Real World Road Rules revamped fishing edition.
The Real Housewives of Lake, the real fishing guides of Lake Fork.
Oh.
It would be like the Real Housewives, like the drama that goes on out there sometimes. And I've been guilty of being right in the middle of it at times. You you get tied up in your own world. You get fired up about things. Like I've been guilty of it as much as anybody. But the drama that goes on, when I got into this profession, I'm like, hey, we're all going to work. We're going fishing, taking people fishing. We're all wearing flip-flops and shorts. We ought to all be having a grand old time.
Wrong.
Hey, some mad suckers out on that pond every day.
Do you know how many more chicken fried steak sandwiches Oak Ridge would sell if they
Dude,
bought this?
I'm telling you, the deal is, it's just a good, perfect storm of events, right?
Oh, yeah.
Lake Fork being the trophy bass fishery it is, but also being the proximity to DFW that it is,
Right.
but also being as small as it is, because, you know, you don't think of Lake Fork as a small lake, but it's 27,000 acres at full pool, and like Rayburn's like 100 and something. Toledo's 180, Falcon's 80, Gunnersville's way over 100. Like, all these other legendary lakes are so much bigger, and we've got, because of our proximity to DFW, we have more full-time bass fishing guys on Fork and more part-time bass fishing guys on Fork than all these lakes do by like a landslide amount. So you pack all of these good, you know, guys that are driven to compete and become great at something. There's a lot of those guys in a small area, and then fishing's kind of a get off my yard type of culture anyway. And oh man, it creates this storm of like,
oh yeah,
he's mad and he's mad and he's mad. And
oh, it's all fun and games until you roll up and start fishing Old Man Crabapple's hole, and then all hell breaks loose, you know?
Yeah. Oh man, it's insane the stuff that goes on out there. And you know, I've seen a little bit of it. Hell, I probably have talked about it more than I should on here. And we've talked about some of the things that I've experienced, and it's sucked. Like, some of it's been flat out wrong. It's just like social media. I do a lot more social media stuff than all these other fishing guys do, so it's more exposed with me, but it's always existed. I knew this stuff existed long before I started guiding, long before I used social media. I knew there was these guide wars, these guide battles, these back and forths. I mean, these yelling matches, and I mean, it's insane.
Oh, you hear the stories all the time.
It's insane, some of the stuff that's going on.
It's, oh wow, what's the word I'm looking for?
One day,
it's a culture.
One day, if they all ever make me mad enough and I decide to never go back there again, I'll tell y'all some crazy stories that I know. But right now, I just, out of respect for some of the people involved, I don't want to tell some of the stories, because there's enough people in the community that know what happened that everybody will know who I'm talking about, and I don't want to do that just yet. But I wish I could tell y'all some of the stories, because there's been some stuff. I mean, we're talking about some serious threats and some physical altercations and people going in the water, and man, like, there's been some crazy stuff go down.
Like some bad news, tin shoe stuff.
Parker Boyd says he can film you in portrait mode. Y'all can make it happen, Captain.
Come on, Parker.
That is the beauty. You know, we talked about the negative of social media and the exposure and all that. It's not really the social media negative. It's our negative as humans. But the beautiful thing about social media is you don't need anybody's permission. Like, you don't need a TV network.
No.
You just have, if you get somebody that has free time that'll follow you around with a camera, you can make your dream happen, Chris.
Parker,
we can film your life every
Parker,
day.
I'll be getting in touch with you soon, bud.
Oh. Cody May says main thing that bothers him on the lake is parents pulling their kids on tubes and skis in the boat lane. That is so bad, guys. So that is so dangerous. So let me tell you, on these East Texas lakes like Fork or Pines, any of these lakes where there's marked boat lanes, do not tube and ski in the boat lane, guys. Don't freak. Not that anybody that does that's listening to this, but man, if y'all think about that, like,
go do it down by the dam on Fork.
On Fork, yeah, go some, or the east side, you know, east of the buoys over there on the Oak Ridge side. I mean, get in some open water, get out of the boat lane where boats have an avenue to get around you, because if there's a boat, and usually a ski boat's not going as fast as a bass boat, so a bass boat's got to pass him. And if you're in the boat lane and he's behind you and he's going to go around you, well, if your kid falls off while he's coming behind you and your kid comes to an abrupt stop, that guy may not have the opportunity to navigate around your child or your friend or whoever it is. If they fall off that tube of that ski at the wrong time with the wrong boat behind them, there's nothing that guy's going to be able to do. And it's not that that guy in that boat lane is doing anything wrong. He's driving where he has to drive because there's trees everywhere around him. Like, don't do that, man.
Because I saw something
It's
yesterday.
so dangerous.
I
All right,
saw
tell
something
me.
yesterday. So you know the running lane.
On, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Go 150 yards to your right if you're heading towards.
Mm-hmm.
There was a dude pulling his kids on a tube.
Don't pull them through the trees either, folks. That's a terrible idea.
Dude, like we stopped and I was like,
Yeah, that guy was pulling his kid through trees.
it was bad.
He's pulling a tube through trees and didn't know it.
Like not
he didn't
slow,
know it.
not slow either.
I guarantee you he didn't have a clue.
No, I was terrified.
What was my first boat? Yeah, that's my first fishing boat. So my first boat was actually that I went out and got was just a plastic pond hopper,
Come
like
on.
an 8-foot Pelican.
Like old school Pelicans.
As soon as I got out of the Marine Corps, man. As soon as I got out of the Marine Corps and moved here, my first boat was a plastic pond hopper. It's like 8 foot long, and I took that thing to Fork. I took it to smaller lakes around here. I took it everywhere. It kind of stayed in the back of the bed of my truck. I had a work vehicle, I had a company vehicle. It stayed in the bed of my truck, and I just drove it everywhere.
Couldn't even go fishing because the women kept trying to climb in.
I
you know what I'm
would
saying?
get home from work, pull in the driveway, jump out, get in my truck with my boat already loaded up, and go, Jack. Grab a trolling motor battery and head to the pond every day. It seemed like, but yeah, that was my first boat officially. But no, the first like bass fishing boat that I got, I never owned an aluminum boat. I went from that to a fiberglass 16 foot 11 inch, which I proudly claim 17 feet on.
That's right.
Right.
Got to.
1993 model Pro Gator bass boat with an old Mercury Mariner 115. And the reason I bought that boat is it had a original Generation 1, I guess you would call it. They weren't called Gen 1s. It was just the first one ever. Lowrance HDS 5 on the dash.
Come on.
That's why I bought that boat, because it was cheap enough. And that's the reason I picked that boat. It had that HDS 5 on the dash.
I had a on my first bass boat.
I've literally owned every generation. I've used every generation of Lowrance HDS electronics.
I had a paper graph on my first boat.
Paper graph. Oh boy.
Remember that paper
Here we
graph?
go. My dad had one of those, I think, back in the day. I
had a
don't know.
95 Cobra with a Lowrance paper graph on it.
I remember that Cobra. That's the one that you like broke the transom on and filled the whole thing up full of water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when I figured out batteries float.
Man, that's good stuff. Let's see if we got some more questions. Parker Boyd says, you give me a room and a seat in the boat, he's your camera guy.
If you don't ever run out of, what are the chocolate cake Twinkies, and let's see, what else do I like?
You bring a box full of chocolate cake Twinkies and Miller Lite, and this dude will take you anywhere you want to go.
I was going to go with grape Uncrustables. If y'all ain't had an Uncrustable, y'all know what you're missing out. Best snack food ever.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, man, that's been a fun podcast. We talked about a lot tonight. I don't know what we're going to have left to talk about tonight. I won't have it. You're going to have to come with the heat next week, because I'm not going to have anything left to talk about, because I pretty much talked this whole podcast.
You know what we'll do? I'm not trying to use your platform to benefit me, but we can just do our first episode of A Day in the Life of Chris next week.
If you want to see Day in the Life of Chris, comment below. Other than that, man, we sure appreciate you guys joining us. Hope you enjoyed us. Like I said, this podcast will be every Sunday night. We'll have On the Water videos Monday. We'll have Throwback Tuesdays come this Tuesday. We're going to start that this Tuesday. Instructionals on Wednesday. Top 5 baits get you ready for the weekend on Thursday. And seminars on Saturdays. Man, you guys rock the house, dude. Thank y'all so much for joining us tonight. Can't thank y'all enough for everything y'all have done for this platform. Well, actually, we got some good fishing questions coming in, so I don't ever like to leave these questions unanswered. Why do so many people hate fishing with fluorocarbon when punching grass mats? Well, apparently you're not catching big enough fish out of your grass mats, or you'd hate it too. The deal with braid will cut the stems on the grass, and if you ever hook, either your mats aren't thick enough or your fish aren't big enough. One of the two.
Anything north of 5.
If you ever hook anything north of 5 pounds under a really dense mat, if you don't have braid, you're pretty much not going to be able to get that fish out of the mat. That braid will actually cut the grass stems and get the fish through the mat most of the time. Even sometimes a braid, you have a hard time getting a big fish out of a really thick mat, and that's the reason. That's the only reason. It's just harder to get the fish out of the mat with fluorocarbon.
It's not even, I was going to say, it's not necessarily
Man,
the
I've
strength of the line.
It's not.
Yeah.
I've done it.
Yeah.
Like, I have punched with fluorocarbon. Like, there's been times when I pulled up to a lake, didn't know it had matted grass, and I didn't have braid rope. I was in somebody else's boat, I didn't have braid rod. So when I start flipping the grass, I just use my biggest rod with fluorocarbon on it. It can be done, but man, you're so much more efficient, and you can get so much of a bigger fish out of the grass so much easier with braid. So that's the reason. So, hey, once again, thank all you guys. One last question we got to answer there. That's good. Appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Chris, do that thing you did.
Thanks and gig 'em. Let's go.
Saw them off.
You bet.